Hello everybody, it's a very windy evening in Bishopwearmouth Cemetery in Sunderland. I've come to tell the story, which you can tell from the title isn't a very happy one. It's called The Death of a Family. I nearly called it The Death of a Sunderland Family, but at the time this family would have said they lived in Bishopwearmouth. So the story starts in the Isle of Skye. A gentleman called Thomas McCrae, a mariner, ended up at Blythe. Here he had a son called Thomas Hall McCrae, who was born in Blythe, and he married a woman called Isabella Clay from Backworth. Now this couple moved to Bishopwearmouth, and one of the children they had was a gentleman called John McCrae, and John was a solicitor. Now at Bishopwearmouth at the time there was lots of demand for solicitors, as Bishopwearmouth and Sunderland and McRae were expanding. Obviously you needed conveyancing for house purchases, land purchases, but also lots of ship owners, shares of sales in ships, and sorting out lots of legal stuff. So he had a decent profession, did John. His father, Thomas Hall McCrae, was a mariner. Now in 1858 John married a local girl called Martha Crosby, who was raised in Nile Street. John had his solicitor's office on Bridge Street, which is just across from Wearmouth Bridge, on the way to Fawcett Street. So the couple got married 1858, and they actually, well, Martha, she was the daughter of somebody who was a mariner, but had then become like a shipping broker and insurance broker, and for Lloyd's of London as well. So she would have been sort of like, I'm not going to say she was mega rich or mega wealthy, but you know, she would have been comfortably off. So the two married, and in 1861 they were living in Peel Street, which is still there today, close to McRae Park. So at the time there was the Borough of Sunderland, which was like the council body which covered McRae, Bishopwearmouth and Sunderland. At this time people still sort of said they were from either Bishopwearmouth, Sunderland or McRae. So if you'd ask these people in the 1861 census, where did you live or where were you born, if they were born in Bishopwearmouth they would have said Bishopwearmouth. So John was born on the 4th of July 1832, and they started a family. So if we look here on this particular headstone, it's actually got a little bit quieter now, and the wind's died down just a little bit, so it might be a bit better. I'm just trying to stand back because my shadow is all over the headstone if we get too close. But if we read here, there's Emily McCrae, born 2nd of October 1860, so she would have lived at Peel Street in 1861. Now sadly she died on the 19th of November 1862, and the young infant was actually buried in this particular spot. And in the burial records it says it was a vault space. Now over the years in the burial records for here, sometimes said vault space, brick grave, London grave for instance, and so on. But literally it wasn't a vault where you could go, climb down into and walk into tunnels. It was literally this sort of area here. Lots of the graves that are up this particular stretch here, if you see how far back they are from the path, are large graves which would cost quite a small fortune to purchase, and they'll be lined with bricks, and there'll be separate compartments, so they just take the top surface off, probably pull away some slabs and put the coffins in there. And actually you can see, I hadn't noticed it till just before I came here today, even though I've been here many times. If you notice here at the bottom, you might be able to see it, is the burial place of John and Martha McCrae, and it's got 1860. So they were actually planning for the future, because the first child didn't die till 1862. And when she died in 1862 she was living in Frederick Street. It was either 21 or 19 Frederick Street. Now I say 21 or 19, when I go on to something else I'll explain why. Okay, so a lot of people wouldn't have had a vault space for children, even if they were, you know, middle class and so on. They would have just buried a child in a separate section of the cemetery, because you wouldn't want to purchase a grave then have like 3, 4, 5, 6 children dying, because then you'd have to end up buying loads of graves. So generally a lot of the infants and children were buried in certain wards with a certain where you basically didn't have the right to put a headstone up, or you had to wait years to put one up, so you didn't actually own the grave. But this family thought ahead and they purchased this particular grave. I'm just going to stand back so I can give you an idea where we are. We're right in the centre. That's the old non-conformist chapel which was demolished. That's the Turnbull vault, which is in that video I did called the vault. And if you go up there about 50-60 metres, we've got the southern chapel, which is being done up at the moment. So sadly, this young couple had lost the firstborn child 19th of November 1862. Now, we look down here as well. We've got John Albert McCrae. He was born 1st of March 1862. He died 5th of November 1863. So what's that? Year and a half. So they had lost the second child in 1863, and again John was buried in this particular family spot. And then in 1864, John, the patriarch of the family, the solicitor, he died the 18th of August 1864. So poor Martha, the wife and mother of these two infants, had lost a husband and two infants, her only two children. Now, when John Albert died, he died at Frederick Street. The family was still living there, and Martha, now a widow, wife of the above John McCrae, this time she'd moved to either 19 or 21 Foyle Street, which is just around the corner from Frederick Street. She didn't live long after this particular event. Look at this, Martha, wife of the above, John McCrae, who died December the 26th, so what's that, Boxing Day, 1869, aged, I think that says 36 years, yeah, she was just 36 years, so that's one family, two adults, two infants, relatively comfortably off within the space of, what's that, 7 years, had all gone. Also Martha's father, he had died within this particular period as well. So just shows you, in the midst of life we are in death. So on. But I mentioned Thomas Hall McRae, and he is actually buried again. I've never checked this one out, but I think this will be a vault grave as well, because look at the space of it here. So he died on May the 2nd, 1867, so I do apologise. It was John's father who died in 1867. And Isabella McRae, she died 1901, aged 91 years. Isabella and Thomas lived at Blandford Street, I think it was number 37, it's the British Heart Foundation shop today. And here it's got all these people mentioned: Jane, wife of John Clay, William McCrae, Jane, wife of John Smith, Eliza Eleanor McCrae, James McCrae, Isabella McCrae, Harry McCrae. And then there's an epitaph is, Father, in thy gracious keeping, leave we now our loved ones sleeping. So that's a fine monument. So you can see it's an absolute excellent condition, quality stone. And just like the one for John, it's still in a good nick. Doesn't show up as well with the sun shining on it, but when the sun's not off it, the lettering is really, really clear. But just a bright evening, sun shining in the wrong direction today. So that's a story about a few members of the McCrae family, and it gives an idea of some of the people who used to live in Blandford Street. It looks a bit run down today, but in the 1860s and 70s and probably later as well, you had relatively well-to-do people living in those, many of them were houses come shops and so on. So I'm going to leave you there because I've got a few things to do and it's a long walk home. So thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy that, please give it a like and click on the subscribe, and I will see you next time. Hopefully next time the wind's died down a bit and I can get out a little bit more. So I'm hoping some things coming up at the moment. I'm going to do one at the vault yard just outside. I'm going to redo that because that's pub's opening launch. And if you notice, I've done some stuff at the Mountain Daisy. I'm going to ask if I can do a little video in the snug there. And there's one other thing I was going to do, but you'll probably see it when it pops up. So anyway, I will see you next time, and thanks for watching. Take care.